This behemoth is thirsty. This van gets like 8 miles per gallon, like 6 miles per gallon while towing. Arizona's notorious for cheap fuel, although it is pretty high right now. But the costs are gonna depend on how much you move around. If you're just stealth camped in the city, working a job, not going anywhere, yeah, you're not gonna burn a lot of fuel. But if you're driving all around, you're trying to boondock at some really epic spots, you're gonna burn through a ton of fuel. And that's definitely gonna be a high cost to van life. Living in a van, it's a pretty simple existence. You just gotta think about your 3 basic things. You got food, water, and shelter. And the last 2 you're gonna have to haul yourself. Obviously the van is the shelter. And yeah, I guess let's have a look inside. It's glorious. No, I'm just kidding. It's really not much. It's just a Ford Econoline van. It's a low top. A lot of people prefer the high top so you can stand up, because in this van you're definitely gonna be hunched over. When it comes to water, I found this to be the best method personally. I got a little carbon filter here. It's like a charcoal filter, I believe, but you can hook it up to any hose, any spigot in a park or a business that you frequent or wherever. And it's just so much easier than just throwing quarters in one of those water machines, and you could fill off your jug just perfectly to the top, so you could stay out as long as possible. I carried 2 6-gallon jugs with me, so that was 12 gallons. Sometimes I would supplement it with a little bit more if I really wanted to boondock somewhere for a really long time. Definitely gotta haul your own, and it's really important. It's essential to life. Since you drink a lot of water, you gotta have yourself a nice jug to get rid of the water, so a pee jug is super critical for van life. Personally, the best ones are like those gallon Arizona ones or the laundry detergent ones. Those are the best ones, but right now we're just rolling a little Gatorade bottle. Got a little fire extinguisher. It's definitely not a necessity, but it's a nice luxury to have. You're cooking food in here, you got an open flame. It's kind of just a safety precaution, really. It's not something you have to have if you want to live in your car or your van, but it's something nice because if things got out of control, you know, it's your house. Got some important stuff inside, right? This is one of my jugs. It's pretty handy. It's got a pretty easy spigot on it. It's just a Reliance jug. It's not really like that big of a deal. But what's really critical in a van is to make use of every tiny space you can. So I was stuffing trash bags under the jug in this little nook. Since there's nowhere you can just go and just pick out some curtains like for your house, I actually made all the curtains in this van myself. I backed them with black so they look kind of low-key through the window tint, and then the front's just a nice gray. And you could tuck them out of the way, and yeah, it's nice for privacy. If I were to do it again though, I think I would get a cargo van. So you don't have any windows at all. They don't condensate as much. There's not that opportunity for people to look in. It's just all around, I would probably consider a cargo van to be superior to a window van, but that's just my opinion, really. Insulation is super important. I drained 26 cans of Great Stuff foam into this van, just kept spraying it. And there's also sound deadening in this van too, which comes in handy when you're trying to sleep and there's just ambient noise around you, whether you're posted up stealth camping in a parking lot or if you're out where we are today and there's some shooting going on or whatever it is, it just helps a tiny bit, and every little bit helps for sure. Got some paper towels, gotta have your PTs, right? But you don't wanna use too much of them because you gotta haul all your own trash. It's kind of like a mobile homestead. Like everything you accumulate, you gotta take care of. So helps to have a little towel to kind of supplement your PTs, trash bag. When it comes to trash, you're gonna have to haul it yourself. So one thing I did is I am running a trasharoo on the back, which is just a big backpack for your van, I guess. They're actually super nice. They hold a ton of trash. You can accumulate a ton of garbage in this thing. And it has nice little pockets too that you can help pick up other people's trash. Every once in a while I'll throw somebody else's in here, and it's just a great way to just, you know, keep these public open spaces open and also clean. I got 2 gallons of water that, you know, you could probably use as a shower, but you would burn it all trying to take a shower with it. So I just wash my hands with it, or, you know, do the dishes, stuff like that. It's pretty handy. It's just a pesticide sprayer. You can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's or any hardware store really. And I spray painted it black so the temperature of the water is a little bit warmer. It's not huge, but you know, every little bit helps. And that is a super useful thing, I would say, that could help you with your van life and not being so crusty out on the road, you know? Up here on the roof, I cannot recommend these fans enough. It looks like something out of Alien vs. Predator, but it's made by a company called Max Air, and it has a little rain shield on it, which is cool because you can keep it open in the rain and in the elements. I've never had it leak. It's just a really great fan, and it can exhaust as well as blow air in too. So at night, a lot of times I'll suck the air out, and during the day, I'll turn it into basically a ceiling fan and it'll blow air in. So it's a really, really useful tool when you're living in such a small space. especially because it's kind of like living in a tin can. It's metal, it gets really, really hot. Fan, huge help. Up here I'm also running 200 watts of solar. It goes into a 40 amp charge controller, which kind of just regulates, you know, the power that you're pulling out of these panels, and it goes into a 310 amp hour AGM battery bank. And I keep it completely separate from the van battery itself. So they're two separate systems. They're not connected in any way, which is great because I can power my laptop, my refrigerator, any power I need. I can just draw off these panels and the battery. And then when I want to go start the van, you know, it's still a van. It'll just drive away and I won't kill my main battery. I would definitely consider this a luxury, but if you're really serious about living in your car, your van, your truck, whatever, it's pretty important and it makes life so much easier. This battery bank actually has enough juice to power my refrigerator all through the night, which is huge because, you know, procuring ice, especially out somewhere like this, it can be, you know, kind of a pain. A bag of ice only lasts like 2 or 3 days. Maybe you have one of those $1 million expensive insulated fancy coolers, maybe it'll last 5, but just to never have to buy ice again, it's priceless. The sun cools your food. It's kind of it's like a cool little workaround too, and I love it. It's super, super interesting to me. 12-volt solar is really not that complicated either. In contrast, the solar at my house is super complex, super complicated, but 12-volt solar, extremely simple. It's just a black and a red, and pretty much anybody could hook it up just by watching a simple video or doing a quick Google. It's not complicated at all. If I could do it, I'm pretty confident anybody can. I basically took a hole saw and I cut a 1-inch hole in my roof, which was kind of nerve-wracking. The red and the black run through that orifice, which is just a hole in the roof basically that's waterproofed, and it comes down into this 40 amp MPPT charge controller, which is pretty cool. There's a PWM that you can get, which is just basically an on-off switch, whereas the MPPT actually tracks the sun and it'll kind of float your batteries, which is great because you get more juice from the sun. And this runs down this wall, goes under the bed into a 310 amp hour AGM battery bank, and from there it just splits off all over this van like a spider web to different charge points where I can charge my laptop, this fridge can run, charge my phone, camera batteries, whatever you want basically, you can just plug it in within reason. It's pretty great. I definitely got inspired from all these super fancy Sprinter and ProMaster builds you see where they have the wood and all the cool, like, you know, wall panels and stuff. It's definitely not a need. It was kind of just a want at that point, but I completely ripped out this whole van, the headliner, all the plastics, the seats. I didn't really need to do that, but I just wanted to. I totally could have lived in this van with it, you know, just looking like a van inside, but I just kind of wanted like a cool, like wood cabin looking van. So I got this really cheap MDF and I put it on the ceiling. There's an inch of foam insulation with the foil back behind that. I taped all the seams. I tried to do it the best I could, and I did 1/2-inch plywood on the walls. The floor is 3/4 ply. It also has foam insulation behind it, and it's just a sheet vinyl floor that looks like wood from far away. So I just did the best I could. You know, these curtains are here, and it's pretty much all you can do, you know? If you're gonna be living in a space staring at it all the time, you don't want it to look like a prison cell or like a car. Like I wanted kind of like a cool, like, cabin vibe going, and I don't know, it's just kind of good for the chi, I guess. I like it. So there's a company called Lagoon, and they make these really, really expensive tables. And I didn't want a really, really expensive table, so I just pretty much copied their design somewhat, used this pipe here, it's just standard black pipe, and I put a table on it, which is great because I could sit here on my computer, I can eat food, I could even throw this table outside, which is really cool. And you know, this whole setup probably cost me like 25, 30 bucks versus the Lagoons. I don't even know what they're retailing for now, but if I were to guess, I would say they're like between 300 and 500, plus you got to get a tabletop. So this thing has been clutch. I really like this too. I put a little magnet on this end so it can kind of be stored. It kind of magnets to the wall, but if we're going, you know, down a trail like we did today and it's getting really rowdy in here, this thing will definitely break free, and it can be improved upon just like a lot of things, but for now it works somewhat and I really, really like it. The next item is almost critical status. I use it every single day. It is just, it's beyond awesome, and it's something I would almost borderline say you need, and it is a Dollar Tree hand broom. You track so much dirt and gravel and just crud in here. It's so nice to just go and just kick it all out nice and easy. Otherwise you're tracking it into your bed, and it's just, it can get dirty in a small space extremely quickly. Dollar Tree broom for the win.
As an independent team of filmmakers, we love producing documentaries for artisans of all trades, honoring skill, passion, and determination. So whether you're a garage baker, homegrown mycologist, backyard farmer, or off-grid homesteader, send us a message and share your story with the world.
This is a 45-quart Ice Cove fridge, and it's a pretty great fridge. I'd say that a fridge is a lot cooler than a cooler because you don't have to buy ice for it. Let's say you're out somewhere really far and you got to go into town to procure ice because your bag of ice has been, diluted down to a bag of water. And that's just kind of a bummer. So when you got a fridge, it's just always running off the power of the sun, and it's just, it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's almost kind of a magical thing to not have to worry about ice, and I really like it a lot. Iceco actually gave me this fridge, so I was really blessed to be in that situation. But before this fridge, I had an Alpacool, and it was a third of the cost, and it was a great fridge. I had no issues with it, and it never skipped a beat. So you don't have to spend a fortune on a 12-volt fridge. They're pretty budget if you go with an off-brand, and yeah, I'd say it's definitely worth it. Because what's a bag of ice? About $2.50 or something. And beyond that, even if you're buying it all the time, what about the food spoilage? Like, let's say you have a bag of chicken that bursts, and all of a sudden you got this soggy cooler with chicken water all over everything, and it's just an absolute mess. But with a fridge, you don't have to worry about that ever, really, which is great. I had a bottle of mayonnaise one time explode in a cooler in my buddy's Razor, and oh my gosh, that was horrible. There was mayonnaise everywhere, and it was pretty gross. I love this fridge. It's invaluable to me. It's definitely a luxury, but it's a valuable luxury. So we saw the fire extinguisher. It's not a need, but it's something that's smart to have. Got a carbon monoxide detector too. A lot of people told me it needs to be mounted lower, but a lot of people also told me that it's such a small space that if you're gonna have carbon monoxide levels at an unhealthy high, it doesn't really matter where it's at. And especially if you're just cooking on a little propane grill in here, if it gets pretty rowdy with carbon monoxide, it's gonna let you know. I've actually never even had it go off, but it's just nice peace of mind to know that it's there. Here's a fun one for you. The bathroom situation. It's reality, and it's something you have to deal with. Everything you do in van life is definitely intentional, and for me personally, I've found the pool noodle with a bag and a bucket to be the best method, and this is just my opinion. I know a lot of people that run composting toilets or like the cassette style. I even met a guy in Havasu that was using kitty litter. And I can't see it, man. I can't imagine having to deal with that excrement in that way. I'd rather just bag it, tie it in a knot, and throw it away. It just seems way more sanitary to me. And a lot of people don't like talking about this and will just graze over this entire situation. But I'm not shy, and I'll tell you guys how I go number 2. Gotta get your bucket, put a bag in it. The pool noodle, you run a little slit in it, and it makes a really plush, comfortable toilet seat. It really is no different than your household toilet where you flush it and it just magically vanishes. It's the same thing, only it's intentional, and there's no water involved, obviously, because water is a very precious resource when you live in a van. This is the inside view of the Max Air fan, and this fan can blow in, it can exhaust out, and it's definitely the workhorse in this van for keeping things cool. I got a little one over here, but it's not really a huge game changer when it comes to staying cool. I think I've probably run the van AC a couple times in like really extreme situations, but it's really not practical to just have your van just idling, chugging, especially this van at like 8 miles per gallon with the V10, just to stay cool. When you're living in a van, you can move around too. Like if it's really hot, like don't be in the low desert where it's gonna be 110. Like head up to the mountains. Or if it's really cold, head on down somewhere else where it's warmer. It's just it's a life of practicality, and you don't wanna be somewhere that it's not gonna be practical. So the Max Air fan, I really, really like this fan a lot. Huge fan of this fan. When you got a low top van, the height of your bed is also a factor, and I really wanted to get like a really plush, super comfy bed. But I went with, I think this is a 4-inch, I kind of forget. I got it on Amazon, it came in a box, it was super small. And then I unwrapped and that thing went, turned into this absolutely massive full-size bed. And surprisingly, it's actually really comfortable, and I'm not disappointed at all. I wasn't really sure how I was gonna feel about it, but I get great night's sleep on this thing, and I like it a lot. Obviously, there's no washer dryer in here, and things can get kind of crusty and stinky pretty quick. You know, you're just going to a laundromat basically, or you know, if things are kind of really in a pinch, you could wash your socks or whatever in a river. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like apartment living without a washer dryer. You're just going to a laundromat, and every town has them available. Truck stops have them too, and you just got to budget for that because they take quarters. Baby wipes are super underrated, and anyone that's lived in a van for any period of time knows how valuable baby wipes are. They're more valuable than gold. You gotta have those Huggies on deck. You can wash your hands with them. You can kind of give your pits a quick little like, and yeah, they're just super handy to have. Baby wipes, they're excellent. I'd say the type of person that would really excel in van living is someone that's just a problem solver and not afraid to drill holes and stuff. Maybe someone that's like, just has a basic background knowledge and just all kinds of stuff, like a jack of all trades, master at none, I guess. For example, this Ford van came with these dome lights that were on a swivel, and going down a dirt road, they would like swivel and turn themselves on. It was just really annoying. I would like park it and go somewhere and come back, and it would be all lit up in here because the dome light was on. And I basically just gutted the whole thing and made my own. So one switch is just dome light action, and the other switch is for the door. And you can override both of them, but yeah, it's just problem solving, not being afraid to drill holes and stuff, and just overall trying to make the situation in here better, even if it's not the best looking or whatever it is. It's about practicality. So if something makes your life easier, do it for sure. A recent addition was this diesel heater, and they're huge. They're super, super nice to have when it's really, really cold out. It pumps a really nice dry hot air as opposed to a propane heater like a Buddy or one of those catalytic type ones. They still put off a lot of moisture in the air. And the diesel heater, it just burns super clean, super warm, but super dry, which is really, really valuable. And I really like it. It's kind of a new thing. We're still kind of working out some kinks with it, but overall it's been a really, really great addition to this van. Diesel is also really easy to source. So anytime you go to the gas station, just get you a couple of gallons of diesel and you've got, you know, diesel heat. It's just basically a tiny combustion engine. It exhausts right here. You know, in hindsight, I probably should have put the exhaust like away from the main back door, but hey, you know, there's always room for improvement, and I got a heater. It's not the quietest heater. It does make kind of a ticking noise, which is actually the fuel pump. It's like a metal on metal, like tick, 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 tick. And what it's doing basically is just sucking diesel out of the tank. But it's not super bad, and if you're really cold, I mean, it's kind of hard to complain about a little tick, tick, tick when it's freezing outside, so I like it. I'm still kind of experimenting with it, but it's pretty cool. Once again, I wouldn't say it's something you need, but it's definitely a pretty valuable luxury, I guess. Ultimately, we settled here in the fine state of Arizona, and there's a couple of reasons for that. It's really affordable here. Fuel is cheap, land is cheap, but I guess that's all relative. If you're from here, it's probably just the normal going rate, but coming from California, you know, this is a place that we could ultimately settle, and we felt comfortable doing so. And we got this manufactured home. It's about 1,300 square feet. It's just a standard double wide. It sits on 1.25 acres. And you know, the main reason we got this house is because for sustainability reasons. It's on a really deep well. It's about 80 feet, and it's on solar. It's got 19 kilowatts of solar, and for us, that was something that was really important, and we settled on this place. Gotta have an outdoor couch bed, super critical here in the East Valley. It's a great place to catch some rays, but in all seriousness, this house has been a ton of work. We've been repainting it, we've done a lot, and we didn't really realize, you know, what a job it would be and an undertaking to get a place like this. But we've been slowly picking off the tasks, and you know, just this week alone, we've been painting. We had a huge sewage backup, and I did a water heater all this week. So it's been a lot of effort to get this house going and to just be gliding. Hopefully someday in the near future, it'll just be at that point where nothing needs to be done in any given month's time. So hoping to get there. It might be kind of confusing to transition from van life to house life, but we do have 3 people in on this property, myself, my lady, and her mom, who's gonna be building a casita over here where this burn pit currently sits. And that was definitely a factor in getting this house as well. It's just having 3 people in on the down payment. So I was really blessed to be in that situation, and here we are, feeling really fortunate. This property is 1.25 acres, but it's only about 60% usable due to this giant wash that just plows through at a diagonal slant through this whole place. But in a way, it's kind of cool because you see kind of some cool wildlife. It kind of has a cool vibe to it, but at the same time, we're kind of limited in buildable space. There's only 3 critical priorities when you're looking for a place to lay your hat, and it's food, water, and shelter. So we weren't super into having some kind of, elaborate mansion, stick-built house, or, just a manufactured home was cool with us. It actually has axles under here behind the skirting that you can't see, but it's essentially just a trailer. And we were cool with that. It's just a place to hang out. It's got a fridge, AC, and, it's shelter, and that's all we really need. This is a super rare piece here on this property, being that it actually has concrete. This is one of the only sections on this whole property that has concrete, and it houses our solar array. This is 19 kilowatts, and inside this shed we have a sewn-in battery bank that's a 6 battery bank. They're lithium. A little bit of it's over my head because it needs internet to work. It seems like it could be a simpler system, but no, it's working right now. We did have a lot of issues with it, and we've had sewn-in technical support out here doing all kinds of stuff, changing the wire size and the breaker, because whoever originally installed this, there was some kind of issues with the wiring size, and it was overheating, and I don't know, we had to go through the whole thing, but now it's finally up and running, and we'll just hope that it stays running. When it comes to solar, there's not a huge amount of upkeep. You do want to rinse them off just with water, maybe even once a month, maybe not even, maybe just, 4, 5, 6 times a year. But when a nice level of crud and dust gets on there, it kind of just cuts down the efficiency of the panels. So it's really not a big deal. Just come through here every once in a while and just run the hose, and that keeps them in tip-top shape and keeps your power at an all-time high, because you want to get the most out of these panels. And that's why they're positioned at a slant like this, because they're south-facing this way, because the sun travels this way for most of the year. During the summer, it's a little higher, but that's why they're on a little slant, and that's why they're pointed due south. As in life, nothing's ever just easy and carefree and trouble-free, I guess you could say. We've actually lost 2 of these panels due to erosion from the summer monsoon. It's been pretty much just eroding this whole hillside, and eventually this entire slab is gonna fall into the wash. So we got to do some kind of shoring up here, maybe a gabion wall or something to retain the slab. But for now, I mean, we're down 2 panels. We still have a lot more to go. It's still up and running, but this is definitely something that eventually needs to get addressed. Seems to be on theme with this house. This is 19 kilowatts of solar. A kilowatt is essentially 1,000 watts. I'm terrible at math, but that's a lot of power for this tiny little manufactured home, which is one of the reasons why we bought this place, was just for sustainability reasons. When I first moved here, I was here 4 days all by myself, fresh out of the van, and this house was actually operating 100% off-grid. We weren't connected yet. Now we have a lot more stuff running. You could almost run 100% entirely off-grid, which is kind of cool. Whether it be for a house or a van, you can expect to pay about $1 a watt for a solar panel. So your average 100 watt panel is gonna cost around $100. You can get that price down a little bit, but that's pretty much a good base number to go off of when you're pricing out a system. When a lot of people drive through a neighborhood, they see solar panels up on a roof, and they think that's the only component. But to get the most out of the system, it's a good idea to have a battery. You obviously have an inverter, but something really critical to point out, this is just my opinion, is it's better to own your panels. If you have a sales guy come knock on your door and tell you, hey, do you have a meter that looks like this? You could be eligible for a solar incentive. Well, next thing you know, you're gonna get a monthly payment, and that kind of just dilutes the savings. So it's better to save up and get a system completely paid for, because then you 100% own it, and all the power is yours, plus the power you sell back to the grid. Prime time is around like between noon and 2. That's when it's just drawing the most from the sun, and right now we're just barely starting to top off our battery bank, which is what it does every day, 7 days a week. This outbuilding houses this most excellent woman's cruiser, but also our battery bank. There's a lot of stuff going on inside here, but at the end of the day, it's just a battery bank and an inverter. It's 6 lithium batteries. They're absolutely massive. They weigh about 70 pounds a piece, and there's an outback inverter, inverting the juice from the sun into 110 and 220. And I think with that, we're topped off. As you can see on the screen, it's 99% at 11:30. That's pretty good. So throughout the whole day, it'll just be topping this off as the AC cycles on and off, or the fridge, or if we did a load of laundry or whatever it is, it's just gonna keep going to maintain that capacity. And overnight, we have it set right now to drain down only to 50%. We could have it way more, but it's nice to have that extra juice in case there's a power outage or something. We could just keep going as business as usual. So We did have that happen one time this summer where there's a power outage, so it's nice to have that extra capacity. You could drain it down to like 5 or 10%, I believe, but it's just nice to have backup. This summer when it went out, the AC was cranking really hard, and it got us through to about, I would guess, like 2 or 3 a.m., but by the time you go to sleep, it doesn't really matter. The solar panel array is so huge and overkill for this house that we do have overcast days, but it just takes longer for the battery to juice up. It'll still hit 100 some point during the day, every single day. There's just so much panel out there. It's impossible for it to not hit 100, even on a rainy day. We've only been here 6 months, which isn't an incredibly long time. There's still a lot of work to be done. This outbuilding is essentially just a shed. We're keeping a bunch of building materials in here. I got hopes and dreams of making it a studio one day, but right now there really is nothing to see inside other than just a bunch of paint and wood. Some more dreams we got, we want to do like some chickens or goats or a garden. That would be super cool, but we're not quite there yet. We're still trying to get this house reliable, and until we get that going, probably won't see a garden out here, but eventually that'd be pretty cool. I want to do like some tomatoes and peppers and maybe some jalapenos, or I don't know, I got this dream to grow a bank of moringa trees so they can provide some shade. We could do like avocados or something. Right now this is all just a hoop dream, but definitely something I want to get into down the road. We don't have a ton of space out here. Like I said earlier, it's only 1.25 acres, but it'd still be really cool to have some free range goats. Like just turn around and there's just randomly like our buddy the goat. He's just there, that'd be super cool. Don't necessarily want to keep them all penned off, but if we did chickens, we'd definitely need a little coop with a little mini run. Probably just do it right here. Right now we're standing on top of the septic tank, which is essentially just the sewer. In this house, it's not plumbed into the city sewer, so we have this giant tank here, and it's essentially just full of turds. There's a giant leach field right here that runs this way. That's where all the liquids go. It's a perforated pipe, and all the liquids kind of just go into the soil. It's deep enough down that it's totally safe, totally okay to do. Every house in this area over here is on one. And you don't really need to maintain it that often. Ideally, if the bacteria health is good and healthy in your system, you only have to do it every 5 to 10 years. That's the plan. But if you're using a lot of bleach or a lot of really harsh chemicals and cleaners, you're gonna be pumping that thing out all the time. A lot of people don't like talking about this kind of stuff, but it's essentially almost the same as the bucket in the van. A little different, but similar principles. It's kind of gross, but it's reality. Everybody's got hobbies, and when you live in a van, if it doesn't fit in the van, your hobby may not be conducive to van life. So I didn't put mine in the van. This is my Jeep. I love going wheeling. I threw this baby on a trailer and I just towed it around. Found a great trailer, a cool spot to wheel, unloaded, and just went for it. And I don't know, I love this Jeep. I've had 10 cars in my lifetime. I'm not super old. I'm only 30. Well, I'm gonna be 33 here in a couple months, but I just can't get rid of this Jeep. I've had it longer than any vehicle I've owned. I love it. It's part Chevy, it's part Ford, it's part Jeep. It's just a hodgepodge of all kinds of stuff, and it's essentially just a trail rig, and I love this thing. Lately, the van's been nothing but just a material hauler. I actually had to put the mattress back in it for this video so it looked kind of like, a camper van, but I've been hauling all kinds of stuff, working on this house, and it's been pretty useful for that. You see vans as plumbing vehicles or carpentry or whatever, and it's just getting back to its roots. It's an E350 and it's doing work. But, I still take it camping and stuff, and I still like it a lot. Been trying to populate this little planter box right here, and I've been really fortunate that my neighbors have hooked me up with some different succulents and cactus. We're trying to get, some kind of life back in this thing other than just, a dirt planter box. We've got some totem pole cactus, some aloe V, got some elephant succulent. Hopefully in a couple years it'll grow together and look like something, I guess. This is pretty cool. This is our well box. Everything to run the water for this house is inside this box. It's an 80-foot well, and for the area, that's deeper than a lot, so pretty fortunate to have some nice, crispy, clean water. It's really fresh, tastes really pure, really great. We got a little solar panel on here. It has nothing to do with the well. It actually just operates this automatic gate. But inside, there's a little pressure reservoir, kind of maintains pressure and holds enough water so that way, every time you turn the water on, the well doesn't have to kick on. It kind of saves the motor. But even bigger than that, we have this giant 2,500 gallon tank behind it. It's kind of, it doesn't hold any pressure, but it's just a beast mode version of that little tiny tank that everyone has on their well. Buried in the ground here is a 2,500 gallon tank, which holds an extremely large amount of water, which is cool because if the pump for the well ever went out or something bad happened, we'd still be able to burn through this 2,500 gallons if we needed to do the dishes or take a shower or do whatever. We still have this reserve here, which is kind of cool. I don't think you necessarily need to bury this underground, although underground does have kind of an ambient temperature that's a lot cooler than the harsh Arizona sun out here. There's really little maintenance to do on this tank. I mean, I suppose eventually we might want to clean it, but that's kind of not really something you need to do very often, if ever, because the tank is holding well water. It's really pure, it's really clean. We're not introducing any bacteria into this tank. I suppose if something died in it, or if we were like drinking straight out of this tank, maybe we could introduce bacteria to it, but it's just some crystal clear, pure water, so nothing really to worry about with it. Very little maintenance, if any at all. So it brings me great joy to just know that I have a place I'm gonna be able to sleep tonight. When you're living in a van, you're kind of just constantly on the look. Where am I gonna sleep? I'm gonna have to find some place that's kind of cool. No one's gonna knock, no one's gonna bother me. And it's one of the reasons why I prefer boondocking. I'll just post up at some spot for like a week. But having a house, I love it. It's unbeatable, and it feels good knowing that I'm paying towards the future and it's an investment. I'm not paying some landlord some astronomical amount for just some tiny square to live in. And you know, this is our future, and this is where we're gonna settle down, and I love it. It just makes me feel good. Rex, do you love having a house? Rex kind of liked living in the van though too. He was always going to cool new places. There was one time at Lake Pleasant, he chased after a bunch of burros, and at the time this was actually like really stressful and really sad. I thought he was gone. He bolted out into the cholla and just kept running and running and running. And I was yelling at him, I was like, Rex, Rex, and he wouldn't listen, chasing these donkeys. And I hopped in the Jeep and chased him down, found him an hour later just panting under a tree like a couple miles away, and that stressed me out. I thought he was gone, but no, he was meant to be here. He was meant to land at this house, and here he is, taking deuces in the yard, being a good boy. Rex loves it.
Hire us to tell your story. As an independent team of filmmakers, we love producing documentaries for artisans of all trades, honoring skill, passion, and determination.
The fruits of our labor literally creates happiness.
Founded in 2020, we harness our collective experience and enthusiasm for storytelling to deliver content that resonates with viewers on every level.
Think big and think outside of the box.
We avoid the constant noise of clickbait news and outrage headlines, instead crafting more intimate narratives that touch on the purpose of life itself. Stories that not only inform but also inspire, whether it's the art of agriculture, the science of fermentation, an innovative garage startup, or the intricacies of off-grid living. We're here to explore it all and invite you to join us in the discovery.
You're just working with what you have at hand instead of having unrealistic expectations.
We know the world is brimming with hidden stories waiting to be told. These are tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
The biggest thing is to realize that there's nothing that you can't do.
Embodying the American spirit that with hard work, dreams really can come true. So whether you're a garage baker, homegrown mycologist, backyard farmer, or off-grid homesteader, send us a message and share your story with the world.